wouldn't call it a watered down solution. I would actually call it that's a way to actually make this happen.
The Russians deny EU claims that they're engaged in energy blackmail of the continent, blaming recent reductions in gas supplies on routine maintenance. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, a coordination centre has opened in Istanbul to facilitate the export of grain from Ukraine's Black Sea ports. 5 people have been killed in a powerful earthquake in the north of the Philippines. And Donald Trump has offered the clearest indication yet that he's planning to declare his candidacy in the 2024 race for the American presidency. That's the latest feature story news. Julia Chapman reporting.
Good morning. It's KCHW 102.7, looking at 7:22 as we get started on our typical Wednesday broadcast with the Mr. Wonderful, Mike Benz. You know, Mike, this morning, I am thinking about the Russians.
Quiet! I can hear myself lie!
Yeah.
I was thinking that, today I'm going to turn into a baked potato, so tomorrow you can put butter and sour cream on me.
Ooh, now you're saying you're allergic to the sun? I didn't know that.
I am actually, yeah. So I got to be very careful. Yeah, I get hives, and so I start looking like a strawberry.
I've got a lot of allergies. That's one I don't have, so I consider myself very lucky.
Well, you just have to be smarter than me taking care of it. I'm one of these that 15 minutes won't hurt me, and then by that evening I'm saying, where's the Benadryl?
All right, you need a big floppy hat.
I have one actually.
And in the studios of KCHW, she keeps us going. It's Michelle Williams. Yay! I'm so glad you're there, Michelle.
The behind-the-scenes expert of all things.
Yes.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm trying.
I really liked it because we had a board meeting, and I had to bail at the last minute because my son-in-law got in a car accident. And it sounded like I was faking it and just trying to get out of the meeting, but it was all real. And the next day I talked to Michelle and I apologized and said sorry for being there. And she said, they had that we really didn't need you. They had some questions and stuff, and I was able to answer them all. And I was like, oh, they didn't need me. Yay!
So you're not irreplaceable.
I am not. I have been replaced by Michelle.
You've been replaced, so you up your game.
Yeah. Replaced by someone even shorter, if you can believe that.
Yeah, well, that's true. I keep thinking one of these days I'm going to be in the studio to do this, and I'll see if she's got the same quirks like you do. You have to have the high stool, have to,
Yes.
I bought like a lifted director's chair for my little studio here, too, to make me appear taller.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Ah, okay. I thought maybe you cut a hole in the floor.
I don't know if that'd work.
Oh, okay.
All right. Let's see. If we should probably do weather before we get everything started. You guys are just, I can see why you're avoiding the sun. Use this heat wave you're going through this week. 100 degrees for your high temperature today. Sunshine will be plentiful, Mike, so wear your big floppy hat. 66 and generally clear skies tonight. Tomorrow, a little worse, mostly sunny, 103. Friday, still sunny, 103. Saturday, right now, 101. Sunday, 102. And it looks like Monday, you're going to go to partly cloudy and drop all the way down to 91. Next week, you're going to hang out in the mid-80s, so just get through it.
That's right. Hopefully, it's our only hot stretch for the summer.
Yeah, it could be over with. Usually by you start getting toward the, I don't know, mid-August, you run out of those 100-degree temperatures. But
right,
never know.
Yeah, it's actually probably been one of the nicer summers since I moved here, temperature-wise and weather-wise.
I had 76, I think, for a high temperature yesterday. It was amazing.
And sunshine, I suppose.
Yes.
And then onshore breeze coming in, whatever, 40 miles or 50 miles.
85 today and partly cloudy skies, so not bad at all. So very, very comfortable. When it hits 90 here, you know it because of that humidity. And you can't, it's really hard. You have to run, even if your house is cool in the evening, you got to keep running the air conditioner because the minute you shut it off, you feel sticky.
Okay. You might get a dehumidifier.
I've been talking about that. So
yeah, they actually work pretty good. We had one when we were down in Texas because, it's always humid down there, at least in the part of the world where we were.
That's because everybody down in Texas is full of hot air. Just saying.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. They drink beer and tequila. So.
Yeah. Nobody gets a sunburn or a rash because they all have big hats.
Exactly how far are you traveling next week, Scott?
I would actually look down at Boston and New York, but I think I haven't done any real exploring much of Maine. So I think I'm going to go up and down the coast of Maine next week. So
very nice.
That's my plan anyways. I picked out some cool hotels that are right on the ocean. The only bummer is I don't have anybody to go with me. So
you need to change vehicles. It's not working.
Yeah, but Mooch is going to be in the hospital all week for the lovers of Mooch the cat, and I don't want to go home because I'd be sitting and going, "Where's the cat?" and it would make me miserable because I'm very bonded with my cat. So I figured I'd take a vacation while the cat's getting chemo.
Well, if you get lonely,
So do you have your Canadian passport?
I do. It's not a Canadian passport. It's called a passport.
Okay. Do you have the they have the one that's just a card?
No, I got the real deal, so I could escape the country now that I'm.
Oh, okay.
I figured why mess around with the card and pay one fee, and then maybe a year or two later you go, oh, I want to go to Belize or somewhere cool, and then you have to go pay again and get a passport. So just get the passport for I think it's like $50 more, and then just be done with the whole deal.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Michelle, you tried to say something. Mike stepped on you.
I was just gonna say, if you start to get lonely, you can always zoom into one of us.
Oh, okay.
By invitation only.
Mike, I'm lonely. It's 10 o'clock your time. Can we talk? I almost thought about doing a GoFundMe for Mooch. This pet stuff. I didn't plan ahead. I don't have any pet insurance. This is really expensive. Expensive. But I thought doing a GoFundMe for your cat pretty cheesy. But that was my vet when I was complaining about the price. That's what the veterinarian said to me. I was like, "This is ridiculous. $2,000 for a radioactive iodine treatment." It's like, "Well, why don't you do a GoFundMe for your cat?" People think I'm an idiot.
So why did you say, why don't you lower your rates so I don't have to?
Yeah, so I've got this whole thing because and all the stuff, I don't see anything about them having like cameras or something in this facility so you could check on your animal like a lot of the kennels and stuff do. So if there's no way to check on her with like a Ring camera or something, I'm going to throw a little fit right there in the vet's office. Like, really? You're charging me over $2,000 for this and you don't have a camera in the room? Come on.
Right.
I mean, I think that should be a requirement so you can check on your animal. And then they won't let me do. I wanted to transport her to the radiation facility, but they do 4 at a time, and because they go for the whole week, and they take all 4 cats at the same time. Well, I don't want some minimum waged yokel, whipping around corners and stuff with my animal in a kennel in the back of his van because she's old. She's got fat hips and stuff. So I'm like, can I deliver the animal myself to the facility? No. And I'm just like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Can I order an Uber?
Yeah. So I might just hang out there and follow the guy in the van and make sure he's driving correctly.
Oh, okay. Michelle, I think he's a helicopter parent.
Yes. I was paranoid with my kids too. I used to do a skit on the radio once a week, and it was called Mr. Safety. and he had to have stupid safety paranoid tips. And his thing was he had to go to the bathroom more than anybody else in town. So he was always groaning and like holding it and doing the pee-pee dance through the skit. But it really, in doing that and in doing the voice, it really increased my blood pressure and would make my head turn red. And I decided doing that character was going to give me a heart attack at 56, so I stopped doing it. So I put Mr. Safety to rest, but
okay.
I still love that. Another thing my kids used to call me was Sir Locks-a-Lot, because I like to lock everything, and then I have to go back and check that it's really locked.
It didn't look for the key.
Yeah, it's like some, what do they call it, OCD?
It's kind of like the people that lock their car and then they turn around and relock their car, and then before they walk in the house, they relock it again just to make sure.
Hence the term Sir Locks-a-Lot. All right.
I'll have to remember that.
All right, we're looking at 7:31. A quick note, we've got a guest today. Our superintendent of schools for Chihuahua, Jason Perrings, be joining us at 8 a.m., so look forward to that. And, of course, we're doing the usual. We'll be broadcasting it on Facebook and YouTube and live here on the radio as well. And let's see, we got through weather. We've chatted a little bit. Let's turn things over to Mr. Mike Bentz, and he's got our weekly nonprofit roundup. Where are we starting today, Mike?
Oh, we'll start with the chamber. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All righty. Well, this is kind of the doldrums of summer for the chamber. So, and I talked to Puani yesterday, she said, well, just, put something out there. But anyway, I do want to bring up the fact that the annual gala and auction's scheduled for October 8th. That's a Saturday. The silent auction will start at 4:30. The dinner's at 6. Live auction will be after dinner. And it's always a pretty good time. Haven't really had one for a couple of years because of COVID, so we're looking forward to that. And there'll be more information coming out as we get closer to the event. And I snared Stephanie Westhoff for the 24th for the radio show.
Nice.
And she's in charge of that particular committee, and she's always a good time on the radio. So we can look forward to that, and they'll have more things nailed down. I actually called the chamber yesterday, and Eric answered, and you probably don't know who Eric is.
That as in Stevens?
No. This is Eric, the forest ranger.
Oh, okay.
He actually answered the phone. He was subbing while Puani was out yesterday, and so I asked him, what's the number one thing you want me to talk about on the radio? He goes, well, just remind people that anything they can get at the Forest Service office in Colville, they can get here on Tuesdays from 10 to 3, including all the different passes, the federal passes like the Discovery Pass, the disability passes, the military passes, all that stuff on Tuesday from 10 to 3. And if you can't make it on Tuesday, unfortunately, there's only 2 people that are authorized in the Colville National Forest to sell those passes. But you can get all the maps, you can get everything else that you can get at the Forest Service office. And Puani actually keeps those. So, Tuesday through Friday, you can stop by between 10 and 2 for sure, 9 to 3 in that neighborhood, and you pick up a map, for the Colville National Forest and affiliated national forests that are closer. And it'll also have the trail maps, the horsebacking trail maps, the ATV and non-motorized. And I mean, he went on and on and on. I figured, man, there's a lot of information down there. And he did point out that most of the passes that have a fee on them, you can actually go online and get. So you don't have to drive to Colville. He said there's a couple you can't because you have to prove the reason you're getting that pass, like the disability pass and things like that. But the vast majority of them, he says you can get online. And if you're out in the National Forest a lot, including the Washington State Forest and the National Forest, that's, the Discovery Pass, you got to have the permit to park, and all the parking spots and trailheads and things like that. So it's well worth it from that standpoint.
Did he happen to mention anything about fire danger?
Oh, no, he didn't, but I can update you on that. Stevens County is in high, about ready to go to extreme. And primarily because of the tall grass, because we had such a wet spring and end of summer, Fortunately, around here, we haven't had a lot of fires yet. And the other night, we had a fair amount of dry lightning, so cross your fingers as far as that goes. But yeah, they're moving into alert. And then, of course, you're getting the typical stuff this time of year where the short-sighted people are out there still burning their trash. And, that stuff just, I mean, it's 100 degrees outside, and you're going to go out and burn your trash pile. I mean, it just, sometimes you wonder. Yeah.
Where's your brain at?
Well, and I know that a lot of the people say, well, it's not a very big fire. And, I've done this before. And, I've got my garden hose here and my shovel. And, well, one burst of wind and throws those embers out there. And I can tell you from experience growing up in the wheat fields of eastern Montana, once the wind gets a hold of that fire, you can't run fast enough. So, it's impossible to really get a handle on it. But
I've had one chase me down the road before. So
yeah. I remember one chasing me across the wheat field when they were harvesting. I mean, it was in an old 6x6 truck that had a water tank on it because I was kind of the lookout if there was a spark out there and it saw smoke. And that 6x6 couldn't go fast enough.
We had a
So, but yeah, I mean, they here in Chihuahua, the helicopters, there's 2 of them that are stationed up here. They're soon to get a third, because DNR did sign an agreement with the city that this is going to be their one of their points to put their helicopters during fire season. And so just by sound, you can tell they haven't been that busy yet, because normally when they get busy, those helicopters come in and out pretty frequently. But and they've got it right. I don't know helicopters a lot, but I do know one of them's a Black Hawk, and that's a pretty mean looking helicopter. But yeah, that's just be careful out there. If you want a huckleberry report, everything I read says the huckleberries are still green up high. It's a little, from just my personal experience, it's a little bit late for those, but this heat will take care of that pretty quick as far as that goes.
Yeah, we
So and then I always like to make sure people understand that chamber bucks are available. It's a great way to do gifts for like birthdays, celebrations, anniversaries, whatever. And I know there's a couple of different businesses in town that use those to reward employees for great service or performance issues and things like that. And the nice thing about a chamber buck is you can get them in any donation because they're actually made up and printed on the spot when you come in there. And they're non-cancelable, so it's like a gift card, never goes away. So if you want to stock up for Christmas today, you could do that. There again, you have to go by there, Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 2 to be able to purchase those.
Okay.
Let's see, that's about it on the chamber side.
Now, Michelle, you kind of tried to chime in there. Did you have some huckleberry news for us?
No, actually, I was gonna say something about the fire thing. We had a scare. I'm up by Deer Lake in that area, and on Monday afternoon, some poor guy was, driving at the intersection there where, Deer Lake Road intersects with Agar, and his side-by-side burst into flames. I mean, they were like 25 feet high. Just luckily he was nearly in the middle of the intersection, so like when the wind blew, it didn't catch any of the nearby trees, but it was pretty big scare for that area because it's really close to where I'm at. So
Oh yeah. That's probably
there.
The what?
It's always really dry in that area too.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it's got so much of the bull pine in there that's kind of stacked, and those are kind of like, candlesticks when they get going because they have all that sap in them.
And you got 10,000 in the ground there. You've got 10,000 years of pine needles.
That's true.
Yes, there's like dinosaur pine needles at the bottom.
All right, Mike, where are you taking us next?
Oh, let's go over to the Creative District. Just want to remind everybody the first Thursday is actually next Thursday, August 4th. It seems like it was just yesterday. I mean, that's how fast the month's going by. All the usual suspects are there. The Trails End Gallery, the Spotlight Gallery, the Yale Press, and McCunn Gallery are all teed up, ready for that. The Spotlight Gallery is, of course, sponsored by the Creative District, and that's where we take First Thursday and try to feature some local talent in a variety of different creative venues. And this coming Thursday, we're going to have cloggers and a piano recital. I won't say it's recital, maybe exposition and a violin exposition. And then she calls herself Lady Red, who does phenomenal ceramics and pottery type things. And she does both the functional stuff, and you can see that at the farmer's market, but she also does some artistic stuff, and she's going to be there. And the Spotlight Gallery's in the Aaron Huff Cultural Center. And so stop by and say hi. And basically, I went to a meeting last week on clogging because the lady was there. And I had a little bit of familiarity with it because of my past. I knew somebody that did clogging with the wooden shoes. And this is way different, to say the least. And the Stevens County Stompers have been around for 21 years. Which I had no idea, and they're actually going to be at the fair up in Colville, and they've got a couple of people who have taken national awards, and you'll find out what the difference between tap dancing and clogging is.
Okay.
So, with that, on September 10th, the Creative District's going to sponsor a downtown artist exposition. We haven't quite figured out what we're going to call it yet, but it'll have 10 or 12 locations around town where people will be doing painting or pottery or ceramics kind of out in the wild for the day. And then they're going to take their whatever piece they're working on that day, and they're going to be featured at the first Thursday in October. So there'll be way more coming on that. We're just in the process of getting that lined up. We've snared, for lack of a better term, Margot Setti is going to be helping us put that together. And she is a phenomenal artist in herself. So lots of good things happening there. I'm actually meeting with our guests today at 10:30 to finalize and put together the curriculums on the Renew Washington grant, which is bringing creative arts back into I won't say back into the schools, I'll say into the schools, from actual people that that's their discipline, that's their craft. And I do know the first one's going to be by Jamie Thompson, and that'll be printmaking. She's a phenomenal fine art artist. In fact, she's the featured artist for First Thursday at Yale Press this coming week. And then we're looking at a variety of different venues. We'll get bids out on graphic arts to possibly ceramics to photography. Cat Books has already volunteered to either do photography or writing skills because, she's a really great author on top of her phenomenal photography. So a lot of things cooking there. The farmer's market is every Friday. And I think, and I wrote this down, but maybe you can correct me. Brad said there are now 38 vendors.
Wow.
Is that?
I can't remember from last week, but it was huge. It was a
It was huge. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be 100 and some degrees, obviously, on Friday, but they have all kinds of ways to help you keep cool. Plus, you're in the trees and you're in the park, and you can go splash in the creek and, that type of thing. But, I'm going to, even with my knee issue, Loretta and I are going to see if we can hobble on down there and check it out. I mean, 38 vendors is huge.
That is.
I mean, but it also tells you the historical breadth and recognition Chihuahua's getting with that farmer's market.
And you can't help by going when you drive through town on the market day on Fridays. You can't help but just go, "Wow! Look at all those cars! Look at all those people! What's going on?"
What's going on? Yeah, I've been thinking about I think your comment or Michelle said last week, parking is an issue, and it is. The vendors all park away from the farmers market. They've got them to do that. So I've been thinking about maybe going and say, okay, where can you do better parking? Well, you've got the parking lot in Estapaca, and that's a whole half block away, and then you got behind the middle school. I mean, that's a whole half block away. And so there are places, I think, for people to park. But I was in a meeting a while back where Paul Setti was there, and somebody said they were complaining about parking, and Paul made a comment, absolutely true. He said, we don't have a parking problem, we have a parking cultural problem. And effectively, people want to park right outside of where they're going to be instead of walk a half a block.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely true.
And that's like I pointed out yesterday. I was like, if you're a local, go to the backside. You know how to get there.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Or one of the side streets.
Save those front spots for people passing through town because they're bringing money into our county.
Right. And I know people have said, why can't you block off the street? Well, it's a state highway. Okay. And then, even if they did that, you're going to have logging trucks running through your neighborhood, and that's not the safest thing in the world.
No.
So that's not going to happen. Okay. And then I kind of went through a new thing looking for stuff, and I'm going to call it the public events, things that are happening that aren't necessarily sponsored by anybody.
Okay.
So on July 30th through August 6th, the Cascade Bike Group called RAW, Right Around Washington, is going to be in Chewelah for the entire period of time. They're using Chewelah and the Chewelah Park as a hub, and then they're going to do their rides, from there on a daily basis. And with that, I'm sure they'll have all kinds of vendors and questions and, things like that, just, demonstrations. On October 1st, the Firefighter Olympics are going to be here. I know Greg worked on that pretty hard, Greg McCunn, the mayor. And I don't know if they've ever been here before, but I have seen those once in Missoula, Montana. They're really, really interesting to watch. And then on August 13th, I was going down through this list, and I'm thinking Scott ought to be here. It's a kids festival. It's sponsored by Faith Community Church, but this is what's happening in the park that day from 1:30 on. 34-foot slide, yard games, tropical bouncer house, spike ball, picture of yourself around the world, 12-foot inflatable Nerf football dartboard, old Duffer's wisdom booth. I ought to be there, right? Balloon animals, inflatable climbing course, cornhole, health booth with free literature and food samples. And so another great event on an August afternoon from 1:30 to actually 1:30 to 7 that you can take your kids to. And I know that's been a drum you've been beating since I've known you. So there's a lot of little things. Well, they're not little. A lot of things going on. And the Independent, has a calendar of events they put together, and that's getting way more robust. So people must be letting them know what's going on. I mean, it's easily a half page long this last Thursday. So
me and Michelle keep an eye on that because it's easy to watch online. Yeah.
Well, I went through it, and it's a regional thing, because the Independent. So it's got the Valley stuff and the Springdale stuff and Colville and Kettle Falls in there. So you could easily go do that and plan a week or a weekend or a day away and have something to go do. So, and then last but not least, as far as the golf course is concerned, we actually have a ladies' invitational going on today. So good luck to all the ladies, and hopefully you got started like at 4:30 this morning, so you'll be done before the heat. And I do want to, and the golf course on the 9-hole side is very family friendly. I keep beating that drum, but it is. You don't have to have a tee time. You can just show up with your family. All kids play free as long as there's at least one paying adult. And if you don't have any golf clubs for juniors, then we have golf clubs, and there is no fee for those golf clubs. And that's an easy course. It's an easy walking course to begin with, but beyond that, it's a great it's the oldest part of the golf course. So you've got mature trees. The place is manicured like you wouldn't believe it, because Ron May and his crew do phenomenal work. And it's a great afternoon outing, or even morning outing for people. It takes about, if you did the whole 9 holes, it's about 2.5 hours of good family time. And at any point, the way the course is designed, by the way, at any point in time, if the kids get tired or whatever, there's these access roads that kind of go up through the middle of it. So you just go over to an access road and you go right back to the clubhouse. And at the clubhouse, you got 2 choices. You've got the inside is open. Of course, it's air conditioned for the heat. And then the outside patio is open. And for the heat out there, we've got a couple of big Mister fans that run and umbrellas at every table. So to help keep the sun away. But so I think that's enough. I don't know if there's ever enough, but I think the answer is there anything to do in Chewelah? I think the big answer is yes.
It's nice too to see a lot of new events coming up after so long without them and not being able to have them.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of groups who are pretty aggressively working on that. I know the Creative District is looking to put together some kind of an art festival next year. We're going to put together a plein air, which is a higher end type exposition as far as painting is concerned. There's just the groups are starting to figure out, okay, we have this great asset called the city park. How can we use it? And then, of course, as Michelle can attest to, the hard part is these are all volunteer ran as a general rule, and they only happen if people step up. And a lot of the people that were able to step up in the past have aged out. I'm one of them. You just physically, it makes it harder and harder to do that.
Because they get bad knees.
They get bad knees, or they get forgetful.
I know at the end of my festival last year, I could barely walk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
I was all over that park like a crazy person, and yeah, my knees were toast.
Yeah, that's the way it was always with the talent show. By the time you get through that weekend and being on stage for hours until it's all over with, you're like, all right, I'm going to go sit for a week.
Yeah. 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 Well, and I get people, I see these really sarcastic remarks about how the city lost Chautauqua and all that. And, well, there's a couple of reasons for that. From my knowledge, one is the people who were running it have been doing it for 20 years. And they consistently asked for 4 years that I'm aware of for people to step up and replace them. And nobody ever did. And of course, once it's gone, it's the people that were there's fault because they couldn't continue it. And then the other side of that is just the pure cost of putting it on. Insurance costs went through the roof. If you talk to Sharon, who's going to be our guest on the 10th, by the way, just things like where the carnival sat. Then all of a sudden the state came back and said it can't be there, or it can't be there in that way because they no longer allowed overhead power lines. Mm-hmm. And so the only thing you could do is move it somewhere else, which is not practical. Or get the power lines buried, which is never going to happen in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. So, and then they raised the rates and the vendors complained and, because they had the costs to recover on it, from that standpoint. So it just, it could have continued maybe, but it wouldn't been able to do it in the venue it was. Then, frankly, the younger volunteers did never materialize.
It's true. It's true. It's not fair if people are out there still complaining about it to blame it on those people because they did it for years and they did it without much help. I mean, they had a great game plan and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty much, they had this blueprint they could go by every year, but it wasn't an easy thing. And it definitely, wow. Wow. Look how many years it went on for. And at least the last 20 years, pretty much the same crew. And I know a few people in there that had slowly bailed out over the years. One of them, he said he moved out of town, and he said he was moving out of town because it was the only way he could stop volunteering.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those volunteeritis guys.
Yeah, I think so too. All right. Is that everything you had for us today, Mike?
That's everything I had today.
All right. There you go. Big Mike Bentz and our non-profit roundup. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for you. All right. Just a few minutes away from 8 o'clock. We'll go to break right around 8, and then we have our school superintendent, Jason Perrins, joining us for probably about 30 minutes there. Let's go move on this morning and do a couple bits or breaks. Michelle, were you just standing by ready for this?
I'm just kind of hanging out.
All right. So bits and breaks. I want you to do this one. I like this. It's omens of good fortune.
Ooh.
All right. We might need some of this.
Yes. All right. So, unexpected, but when bats nest in your home. This is one of the most powerful indications that the family is about to become seriously wealthy. The Chinese regard bats as symbols of abundant wealth.
Really?
So what's your most unique bat experience?
You haven't heard the story. I can bring in bats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's my whole channeling Batman thing. So I have these really super bright LED lights that I used to use up on my property because they were solar. And if you put them up over my head at any time during the summertime and just start spinning them around, you'll get to bugs starting to like hover in a circle. And within minutes, I'd usually have like 4 bats swirling around me like a tornado. And then one day outside the station, I thought, who put the candy bar in the window? Oh my God, is that really a candy bar? And I went up and looked at it, and it turned out it was a little brown bat. And I don't know if he'd gotten scared out of his nesting place for the day, but he was in the window. And this is last summer. It's like 105 that day, I remember. I'm like, and he's in the windowsill of the radio station. I'm like, he's not gonna live. So I actually went into the radio station, got a bowl of water and some books, and came outside and made him a shelter with a little bowl of water in it. And I checked on him a couple of times throughout the day. He was still breathing. He was in there. And by evening, he was gone. So there you go. There's my bat stories.
Oh, really? Well, I've got one where we were down in Texas. My daughter and my son-in-law came to visit, and they lived in Tucson. And they used to get off work and drive basically during the night to get there. And so I get up the next morning and I go out, and on the front of their grill of their car is a bat that's spread out that they'd hit during the middle of the night.
Oh.
I mean, he would look fully intact. So, and then the other one is, if you ever been to Cody, Wyoming?
I have not.
Well, there's a famous bar restaurant called the Irma. It's where Bill Hickok used to go, actually, years and years ago. And so we were there one morning having breakfast, and we were just sitting there. All of a sudden, these bats came in and were flying through the restaurant back and forth.
Oh.
Nice.
I mean, they're friendly creatures.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Austin, Texas, the bridge that goes over it's actually the Colorado River, believe it or not, but not the one that most people think. In Lake Travis, there's a bridge down there. Life Man, I can't remember the name of it right now, but they have up to 1 million bats that house themselves underneath that during the summertime. And they come out, of course, at dusk. And so actually people will go down there, and they have these places where you can watch the bats come out in big, huge clouds.
Oh, cool.
It is. It actually is pretty cool.
I got one question for you. Since you're older, maybe you'll know this. Maybe Michelle will know it. What is a belfry?
What's a belfry?
Because they say you got bats in your belfry.
It's the top of like where a bell.
Yeah, the top of the bell tower.
Say that again, Michelle.
The top of the bell tower, like on the churches where they have where it's housed.
Should have been obvious, right? All right.
Okay, it's also a town in Montana.
Well.
And it also means you're crazy, Mike. Saying. All right, more omens of good fortune, Michelle.
All right. Another highly unlikely omen of good fortune is when bird droppings land on your head. You might think that would be bad luck, but no, just wait. Many people believe this to be a major sign of wealth coming from heaven.
I wish a bird would poop on me.
And it's coming from heaven.
You're going to the coast. Just wait.
Okay.
It's coming from heaven, but I don't think it's going to make you wealthy. All right. Where's Charlotte? Finding initials on a spider's web is said to be an indication that you will have good luck forever. All your plans will develop to fruition, and whatever obstacles may be blocking your projects will be dissolved. Like the spider, you will attract food and money without even trying. Well, fancy that. Okay. Another sign of good fortune, meeting up with a snake. Whether in your garden, inside your home, or out hiking, if you meet up with a snake, it means something or someone important is coming into your life. Never, ever try to harm or kill a snake when confronted with one.
Oops.
Okay.
Oops.
What if it's trying like what if it's trying to bite you? Is that like a
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm moving right along. Okay. When your hands tingle, it's a sure sign that money is either coming to you or leaving you. The general consensus is that when your left hand tingles, money is coming to you, and when it's the right hand, money is leaving you. What happens when your hands go to sleep?
Bankruptcy.
Oh, darn it. I was afraid it was something like that. The same interpretation is also placed on hands that suddenly start to itch. If your left palm starts to itch, you're about to come into a windfall. Pour some itching powder on my left hand. All right, let's see. When a butterfly flies into your house, this is commonly interpreted to mean that you are about to receive some important guests. If the butterfly has bright colors, it means the visitor will bring good news relating to your love life. If the butterfly is dark, almost black, the visitor is bringing you good news related to your career or business. Never chase a fluttering butterfly out of your house. All right.
I've always wondered if, since they call them butterflies, do they taste like butter? Because my cat loves them.
Maybe. I've never heard the butterfly one, but I have heard the if a ladybug lands on you, then that's supposed to be good luck.
Right.
And then there's the Native American, I'm not sure what tribe or whatever it comes from, but I heard of folklore that if you see a coyote or a coyote crosses in front of you on the street, that means you're supposed to come into money in the future. And I've actually seen coyotes and actually did have money come into my future in a not, very far span of time.
I noticed I had a friend post out of Montana, so maybe you know something about this, Mike, and she said the locusts have arrived, or the locust plague has arrived, and she had a picture of the front of her car, which you could not tell what color it was. And it could not see through. I mean, the entire grill, the license plate, everything was just covered in locust guts.
Yep. Well, the Mormon crickets, which I think are the same thing, although don't quote me on that, they've been invading Nevada and heading north. And I had a friend of mine that said they went hiking and even they were so thick going down the road, you could hear them crunch as you were driving.
There's an area in Wyoming that's like that with the bunnies. If you drive through during the morning or night, they call it the Rabbit Highway, and it's literally, when you drive through there, even the rest of the day, the pavement is literally fur and blood.
Oh.
Oh, jeez.
That's not nice. I remember I went to Wyoming and saw all the crickets and stuff everywhere, and I was probably about 15. We went through Yellowstone Park and everything. Awesome trip with my family. And we get down to Wyoming to visit one of my mom's relatives, and the streets just covered with grasshoppers or whatever they were. And in Wyoming, they had this huge bug. I have no idea what it was, but it was so big, I thought it was a bird. It was terrifying. But I think the one thing that stuck out to me the most is like there's crickets all over the road and everything, but the bees, like the yellow jackets or wasps or whatever, and they're all over the road eating the crickets. And I'm just like, oh, you could just hear them everywhere, just crunch, 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 crunch. It was
I hadn't
terrible.
seen them around Chihuahua very much in the past, 10, 15 years that I had lived there. But when I was a kid growing up in Chihuahua, and I did still see them here and there, but not like they are these beetles that are like 3.5 to 4 inches long. Have you ever seen one of them or been hit in the head by one?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
No.
They're kind of giant beetles.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be really, really prevalent in Chihuahua. Climate change, maybe they've moved into a different area. Maybe they became endangered and died off. But they were huge. And a lot of times I remember we had an open garage, and you'd be in the garage working on something, and one would fall out of one of the rafters and clock you in the head. And it was kind of like getting hit by a rock.
Yeah. We actually found one just the other day when we were fishing, and I used it as bait.
Did it work?
No. I know. I felt bad. I sacrificed his poor tiny life for nothing.
Oh man, you sound so depressed about it too. We should go to break. I bet Jason's probably waiting to sneak into our green room.
Yes,
Sounds fancy. All right, so we're going to go to break, deliver you some news. We'll come back with Jason Perrins, our superintendent for Cheweeville Public Schools. Then we'll wrap up the show. We'll give you some local birthdays, a little fun stuff, and odd news. Unless Jason has a ton to tell us and takes up the whole show, which is okay, too. Just stay with us. It's Northern Lights Public Radio, and we will be right back. Hold on, I can't find the right button. All right, I'm guessing we're muted, so we're not going out over the air?
Correct, but we are going out over Facebook, so mind your manners.
Oh, okay.
And try and get this.
All right.
There he is.
There's Jason. I got a cat that's screaming in the background I'm going to go deal with.
Okay.
I didn't know cats screamed. Wow.
Well, this is Scott.
Have you met Mooch?
No, I have not.
She's very vocal. She's very vocal.
Cats
Yeah.
purr. I think that's all they do. I didn't know they screamed.
So are you?
Great. Doing
You
good.
look good. Looks like you're getting some sun.
Oh, yeah. Well, when the sun comes out, I'm attracted to it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it happens.
So are you in like 5 days a week, or is this kind of a in and out type time of the year for you?
Yeah, yeah, in and out. Yeah. I mean, I work, but taking days off here and there, but yeah.
Okay.
It's not as rigorous. Everything slows down in the summer. So, but
Right.
that's what I try to get a lot of things. I work ahead if I can on something. So,
Right. No, I can relate to that. So,
I'll be gone next week, which will be nice. All my kids are coming in, so we're gonna have I guess a gathering, a reunion of some sorts. So it'll be fun.
okay. So where are your kids at?
Well, I have 5 children. 2 are in DC. One's in San Francisco, and the other is floating around the world. I don't know. She came back from Rome. Oh, she was in Amsterdam for a while, and then the one that just graduated. So they're 3 of them are married, so they live
Right.
do their thing, So yeah.
Yeah. So they're coming to Cheweeville?
Well, we got a place down in by Coeur d'Alene. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So my oldest daughter, she's married. Her husband works for Tesla. He's an engineer in DC, in Virginia, and she's a mental health therapist. So she's a shrink, I guess you can call him. And my other son, his wife works at the Holocaust Museum at the DC, and then he's a pilot. So he's a pilot instructor.
Wow.
And then my other son's at Maritime Cal State. He just got back from being at sea. So he likes to be in ships and stuff. And then my other daughter, likes museums. So she travels and likes art. So she's an art history major. So.
Wow, it sounds like all your kids are really successful. You must have pushed them.
Well, I did kick them out of the house. I said, don't come back unless you want to visit. But no, they're doing really good. They're great people. I have to say, I've been truly blessed. If anybody gets any credit, it's their mother, but no, they're doing really well. So.
Yeah. Well, I read an article quite a while back, that the average age of a kid leaves the home for the final time in the U.S. is 26.
Oh yeah.
And both of my kids left at 18 and never come back.
Yeah. Well, we talk about culture a lot. Everybody seems to think it's a big deal, but it kind of is in the sense that, we in our culture, in my family, it's you get out, you're done. And
Right.
Your senior year, you're on that's your bridge to get out on your own. So So they've done that. And so,
Yeah.
My daughter's 27. She's already more successful than I've ever been. So.
yeah.
I love it.
No, that's so true. It's so true. I'm so jealous of my kids. They've got their crap together and they're doing really well. And I'm so proud of them. And I'm just happy about it,
Yeah.
Right.
That's our hope for our kids, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they struggle. I mean, it doesn't mean they don't have problems. Trust me. Parenting older kids, adults, is way harder than kids. It's like I can drag them, I can force them into the car seat, but as adults, it's just a different animal. And so you have to just listen and be supportive, and
Right.
And it's a lot harder.
It's tough when you warn them from experience and they blow you off, and then they do it anyways, and then they have the same problem. You're like, I was trying to tell you.
See, I got this theory that says the first time they do something that, and you say, well, you should have done it this way. You're just somebody who doesn't know anything.
Right. Yeah.
The second time they do it, maybe they took a little bit of your advice. The third time they do the same thing. Now it's their idea. And why didn't you tell them the first time?
Right. That's so true. That's happened to me many times. I just like it because they call me and they still, my daughter, in between her sessions, counseling people, she has to take a break. It's so intense that, the type of people that she's dealing with. And I really appreciate our conversations. So it's changed from being I'm still her father, but we have a very conversational, engaging, a relationship, which is phenomenal. And she's very bright. And my son, who's the pilot, he's just crazy. I mean,
it makes you feel good when they call and ask for advice.
Yeah. It is nice. Yeah. And I'm in the counseling field as well, but not in the mental health counseling field. So we can connect a lot on different levels. But
we're at 1.5 minutes to go time.
All right. You want to feed the end of the news down the line?
Sure will.
All right.
Quiet on the set.
Goodbye. Quiet on the set.
And losing a spouse who may have earned the bulk of their income.
Folks come to us to get retrained and learn new skills and boost their confidence and build a network. And we retrain them and we send them out into the community and internships to do that.
Easter Seals Oregon partners with nonprofits and state and federal government agencies in 30 counties across the state.
Finally, our Lily Boki tells us that rural America is facing a shortage of educators and guidance counselors.
A New England-based nonprofit wants to equip current educators and school staff with the training to help students identify whether college is right for them and get the process started. Rick Dalton leads CFES Brilliant Pathways, short for College for Every Student. He notes rural students face unique challenges. They may lack high-speed internet access or live far away from the nearest college campus.
Rural students are slightly more likely to graduate from high school. However, they're less likely, rural kids, to go to college. And when they get to college, they are less likely to stay.
This story produced with original reporting by Nick Forzos for the Daily Yonder. This is Mike Clifford for Public News Service, member and listener supported. Here are some great radio stations, your favorite podcast platform. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
Good morning. It's KCHW 102.7, and we are back live for our morning show. I got a special guest, too. Real quick, I want to give a couple shout-outs on Facebook. We got Marion checking in this morning, and she got left a message for Mike on Facebook. It says, I've lived here since 2016, and I'm so impressed with all of the things going on in our little community. Mike, you do a phenomenal job keeping us, up to date on the current happenings in town, and she sent you a bunch of hearts and smiley faces. Mike.
Hey!
Yay! All right. So thanks for turning in this morning, Marion. And I'd like to welcome back to our show Mr. Jason Perrins, our superintendent of Chewelah Schools. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Thank you.
And I have an introduction for you, too. I don't think she was with us when you were on last time. Michelle Williams, our new station manager, on your screen there as well. So, Michelle,
Hi, Michelle.
Jason,
Nice
Michelle.
to meet you. Yes.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to meet you.
All right, let's get started this morning. Got a few things me and Mike were talking about earlier to talk about. You might bring them up on your own. But let's just kind of get started with where maybe you ended up at the end of the last school year and where we're taking off from right now. Does that make sense?
From our previous conversation that we had on the radio?
Well, kind of. How did things end up for last year, and what are you looking forward to this year? Maybe it'd be a better question for you.
I think, well, things ended really well. Ever since the change, as you know, with the restrictions that we had due to the pandemic, that shifted. We saw a tremendous light turned on when kids didn't have to wear masks anymore. So that was a great transition. Of course, it opened up a lot of things too that we began to see. And so we're working in that direction. But no, we ended great. We actually had a showcase that we did, a student showcase in the park. So we had a big school fair in our local park here. It was well attended, lots of food, the Lions Club, the Chamber, Kiwanis, and a bunch of groups came together. It was a phenomenal activity. Kids presented and teachers presented everything that's going on in the school that kids have been learning. And it was our first one. And so now, next year, we're planning, and it's going to be 10 times better. And the whole community came in. The students performed, not just music, but we had our middle school science kids did some flight physics and showed how to fly some planes. It was just really awesome. And no, we ended well. Everybody was safe. And
I got another question just based on something that you say. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I just elaborate more on the difference that you saw from your perspective of when the masks got to come off.
Well, I think it's, I wish I could say that it was like an epiphany or just an aha moment, but you know, just to be able to see people's faces is not, it's not anything scientific in the sense of, oh, wow, we didn't know this. I mean, we're social beings, so you have to see people. We know that communication is, you know, they always, I don't know what they always quote, someone always quotes some high percentage that it's nonverbal. And so when you can see and interact in emotions and it makes communication and life and ease and stress a lot easier. So just having that for a teacher to be able to speak and the kids can see and read the language as opposed to just the voice and the tone of the voice. I mean, come on, I mean, we're human beings, so it's just the best way to do it. And if we're all muffled and if we're all like in hiding, it doesn't make for, it doesn't alert the brain and it doesn't impact learning much. So that, and just happier, especially for me, because I'm going into the schools practically every day, and it's hard to interact and build relationships with people that you can't see. And we rely on relationships to learn. We rely on relationships to be able to function, to be able to have happiness in life, to have joy, and also to read when people are sad and not doing well. Well, when you have a mask on, it makes all that impossible. And so, you know, we want kids to come to school. As you know, schools used to be a place where you went because that's the only place you knew where you could go to learn. That's not the case anymore. So schools over the last 20 years have had to redefine themselves and their purpose. And one of those obviously is interacting, learning how to be in a community, learning how to develop your character and working with other people and understanding other people and dealing with people you don't like, even the teacher, and dealing with people that, you know, your friends. And so you put a mask over that. It's like, why even, what's the purpose of life? And so it's almost like you rob people of their own dignity. And that's my issue. It's your human dignity is taken away from you when you don't have, when you can't see someone's face. And phone calls are the same. And that's why we always have communication problems, because people that write an email over a sensitive issue that's longer than 2 sentences, pick up the phone, or at least now you can Zoom and FaceTime or talk to that person. That's much more of a better, and if you can be with that person, obviously, you know, before we started the show, we were talking about my daughter, who's a mental health therapist. And, just that interaction that she has, people are craving to meet with her, and she has, but there's all these restrictions. So it's the telehealth, and which is not bad. It's a fine substitute, but when you're in the presence of a person, much greater gains can happen in any category, whether it's learning or just providing support for students. And one of the things that we did, we contracted a mental health counselor here locally in Chewelah. And the last 4 or 5 months of the school year last year, and Scott, you're asking about the end of the year, and we made significant gains because this person can get out and reach and talk and work with those students, which is much more powerful than any other way. And no one wants to talk to someone with a mask on. It's almost rude. Actually, it is rude. As you can say, the lights were turned on. I was mentioning earlier. So,
all right.
I'm really glad. Can I just say that you have that outlook on it, especially when we had kindergartners and stuff coming into their first year of schooling, and then that's what they had to experience. So I'm really glad that we were able to turn that around before their first year of school was over, and they could experience the face-to-face contact with teachers and other students as well before moving into next year and having things be different.
Yeah. And our kids have suffered in their learning significantly. I'm not just saying because of the mask. It's just, not having that connection and that routine with teachers, which we've experienced this year, which was great. But that's where we saw the biggest gaps over the last 2 years where it wasn't that case. And that's, so we have a lot of work to do, more than I think we're wanting to admit.
Okay. So how are you playing catch up?
Great question, Mike. And I'm glad you asked that, because it's actually on put on my notes. I was listening to that commercial, or that end, I don't know, that was at the very end.
Newscast
regarding the shortage of teachers and all that other stuff. And so we have that same issue. For some reason, we're short on employment and employees as well. I'd like to say that, not like to say, but I know that other fields and professions are also suffering, but we are as well. So we're doing, Mike, is we're hitting professional development really hard, and we're refocusing. Well, like I said, it was only my first year. So when I say refocus, I probably shouldn't say that, but we're focusing on assessment and professional development. We've got the stronger our teachers are, the better our schools are, the better the learning is. And so that's one of the things that we're focusing on this year: better assessment practices, better diagnosis, and better support in the learning. And so not to say that we weren't doing it in the past, it's just that that's where a lot of our energy is. And so that's where we're going to be working on. We have actually a gentleman, Dr. Eric Jensen, coming for 2 days. He's written like 35 books on instruction and how to teach, and then also adult learning. So he'll be doing an all-day session on team building and habits of growth. So what we're doing is we're focusing, as you may recall, Mike, or when you lived here, every Monday is an hour late start. So every Monday, kids come to school an hour later. That hour is where teachers now, we're getting significant training. We've joined a cohort group that's supportive nationwide with Solutions Tree, and we're really hitting hard on what we call professional learning communities. And you've heard it before, PLCs, but we have to do better at those. We haven't been doing some groups have been strong and others haven't been so strong. So we're really focused on those. And what that does is it gets the teachers together for an hour where they talk about student learning the previous week with data and say, okay, here's Johnny and Scott and Mike and Michelle, and they're not doing well, or they're doing well. And that hour, then the teachers then use that time to look at how well the students are doing and look what they can do that week to improve their learning. So it's very focused on that. That's where that time is. So a lot of time, people may or may not know why there's an hour start. They think, oh, teachers get together and they do stuff. Well, that's what they do. They sit together and they talk about, they look, okay, well, Scott, you're reading really great. So let's do this and so that's what that time is going to be used. And we're going to be trained on that. And the teachers are going to also, teachers are really stressed out, and they're really, and they're, because the kids are not obviously at the level that they think they should be, or they could be, because of the last couple of years. So okay, we want these kids to learn. How can we get them to learn? So this will also provide some of that time where they can support one another and get in there. And this Dr. Eric Jensen coming here for 2 days will work on that, and how they can team build and then work together productively for students and then their own growth in that area. So that's just some pieces of the pie that we're focusing on.
So is it kind of like in my prior life, I used to have a standing call once a week with the people that I were responsible for, and it was an hour long, and it was best practices that you learned this week, kind of the same thing?
Yeah, kind of. This is, well, the professional development's on the side. So that stuff we'll do after school and some other times that they'll train. But this 1 hour weekly is specifically for kids. So the teachers get together and they talk about the learning from the previous week. Okay, here's my test scores, here's my quizzes, or here's what I know is going on. My kids are weak in fractions. Okay, what are we going to do about it? So it's that collaborative learning, but also just focus on students. Yeah.
And it sounds like it'd be a great way, like we're talking about being behind because of the past couple of years and what's happened. It seems like a great way to get caught back up with some extreme focus, right?
Yeah, and there's another thing too, and this is another thing that I'll be pushing, is student learning is a partnership with families and parents. Mm-hmm. If there's families out there, or if the community of Chihuahua thinks that schools are going to be able to fix it all, they're living in a land that I don't know exists, and I don't know if it can exist. So what's really critical is that the parents have to come in and also participate in that. So if I have a child who's not up to par, or even doesn't matter, whatever, whether they're low or high, if the parents are not involved physically and mentally into that, and socially into that learning process, we won't be able to do it all. Mm-hmm. And we can make some advances. So even though we're focusing on that, I want parents also, what are you doing at home? Mm-hmm. I always ask, what are you doing at home? What environment are you creating in the house, in the home, that's going to support the learning? Because I know that I've seen it so many times. You bring the parents on board and they get excited, or they talk about learning and they expect learning to happen, the kid will change far greater than some inspirational teacher. Kids will, when they go home, they're going to get it, they'll do it. And,
So when I was raising my kids, we used to have parent-teacher conferences, I think 3 times a year. So effectively that went away, I assume, with COVID by and large?
No, actually it still existed. Well, last year we did them. So prior to that, they were different. But now we've had them this last year, and definitely parent conferences. Our district is shifting a lot towards student-led. In some cases, where the student then is accountable and says, here's my attendance, here's my grades, here's what I'm doing well, here's my goals, and have that student articulate it better than the student sitting there or not there and the parents talking about them. So bringing the kid to the table is really critical, and that's going to be a transition we'll start to see. But the parent-teacher conference is just a check-in. But with technology now, as a teacher, I can email that information to you on a weekly basis. That connection there is fine. But what's really important is that when that kid goes home, what are they going home to?
Right.
Do your homework. Are you going to do your homework before this, before that? Mm-hmm. Just, hey, and their parents talking about how important education is. Mm-hmm. Now, the commercial about shortage of education, or kids are not going to college, which is what we listened to before this program, before we started. College isn't the answer. Kids are leaving colleges because colleges are boring and they're not providing any kind of future. Now, some of them do. I mean, if you're going, like my son-in-law, I was telling you earlier, he went to college, he's an engineer. So you have to go to college to get that training. So specifically, why are you going to college? And if that's a focus, then that works perfect. But kids are just like, well, I want to do something else. I was telling you, my son, he went to college and he dropped out. He went to pilot school. Now he's a pilot instructor. Okay, college wasn't for him. So we have to provide the right resources and support to kids, and college isn't always the answer. But after high school, training and focus is the answer. We just have to find out what that is. And
so how does the school system promote that, I guess? I mean, because when I went way back when I went to school, college was kind of the mecca. Everybody you were pushed that direction effectively all the time. And because of that, in my opinion anyway, because of that, over a series of years, the alternative careers, especially in skilled trades, went away.
Yeah.
So how do you bring that back? I mean,
Well,
how do you?
Yeah, I don't know if we ever lost it though, Mike, because we have our career and technical education programs right now.
Yeah.
We do have kids going into the trades. We have, now I don't know if Tooele is a great representation of the nation as a whole. So if you look at national data and you look at what we're doing, we're still pushing those things, and we still have those programs in our schools. Can we do a better job of that? Yes. And maybe in a year or so when we have this radio program, I'll tell you about what that's looking like, but it's too soon now. But we do have plans in that direction. But kids at grade 9 are being talked to about their career, their conversations about what they want to do. So that's a conversation that's constantly going on in schools. And of course, when you go to school, when kids complain about why am I learning this, then that's when you get in that conversation. So that dialogue has never changed. It's still there. It's just that we have to do a better of getting kids exposed to it and delivering that. But we definitely want, there's a guy named Mike Rowe, I think he's on TV. I think he does that.
Right. Yeah. Dirty Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. There's one thing I learned from him a few years ago, is that we teach kids, we get them exposed to as many skills and many opportunities and of course they have to learn how to read and write creatively, obviously. But we want them to find opportunities and seize them and take their passion with them. So all too often people say, follow your passion. Well, what if you're not good at your passion? Or what if it's not something but if you find an opportunity and then take you with it, take your passion and make it great, there far more people are successful in that. And so we just have to give kids those opportunities, or at least get them out there to seek them and then take advantage of them. So it's a constant, okay, what do you want to do with your life? Those are the questions that we were asked when we were kids, and it will never go away. And those kids will constantly have to be thinking and processing that, again, with parent support. So again, if you're relying on schools to do everything, it was never designed that way. So we have to involve those parents, and they are involved. When they go to the parent-teacher conferences, they have those conversations. What are you going to do with your life? That kind of comment. And, you need to study this, and it's hard for some of these students, but they need to do it. So everything good comes from hard.
Well, and I think I saw this, I haven't had kids in the school system in years now, but I saw this. There are a lot of parents out there, and I guess I'm going to kind of shame them because they'll know who they are, that have left it totally up to the school system. I remember my daughter being in preschool, and other kids that didn't know simple things that you could do at home, like colors, animals, things like that. I was blown away that a little boy's playing in the sand, and every animal he pulls out, he holds it up to us and asked us what that animal was. And then the last one he pulls out is a deer, and he goes, "Oh, I know what this one is. It's a deer. My daddy shot one last week." Right. And that was the only animal he knew at 4 years old. And I was like, what are these parents doing with that child to get it ready for school or life or learning or anything? So there are people out there that just lack of time, lack of their own education, that are leaving it up to the school system.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I'm not going to shame parents too much, Scott, but I think that the other idea basically is just interact and engage your students in a lot of things. And kids ask a lot of questions. They ask them for a lot of reasons, and it's really important that we're always engaging our students young. It doesn't matter how young. And nagging. I tell you, nagging by a mother is the greatest gift God has ever given us, because no, listen, this is really important, because nagging is a serious issue that is so important, because a child has to be told several times to say thank you, and because if they knew that you just tell them once, oh yeah, okay, I'll share, but it's constant. It's so important. It's such a gift that mothers have. And that in teaching, yes, over and over again, give them the answer, just continually. It can be exhausting as an adult, but we need to not be exhausted, because that's that brain wiring and that curiosity. We don't ever want to have that. And so just being an engaged conversational parent and working with them is all that's necessary. We just have to do that.
So Jason, from a community perspective, what can the community do to help you and the professionals you're surrounded with get the job done?
Wow. I should probably, I need time to think about that. I have a lot to say on that subject. Just off the top of my head, just one of the greatest things is talk in your home, whether it's at dinner, whatever. Kids will come home and they'll complain about school. Parents need to turn it to a positive. Mm-hmm. School is meant to be hard. It's meant to be challenging. Mm-hmm. That's the point. Right. No one grows without adversity. Mm-hmm. Try it sometime. Mm-hmm. Go to the beach, get a margarita, lay down there and see if you can learn something. It just doesn't happen. So learning is adversity. And so that's something that shouldn't be. Now, if it's bad, then yeah, we need to deal with that. You know, we don't tolerate harassment. We're not talking about that kind of stuff. But the challenge is sitting down. So if parents can just talk positively, hey, do your homework, have them feed them. Just do this assignment, practice it, do it. Let me help you. That kind of thing will just teach that child to continue to say, hey, you know what, learning is something that's of value, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing. And so just off the top of my head, that would be my one thing, that just talk positive. If the kid doesn't like the teacher, then the parent should engage and say, well, tell me more about what the teacher was trying to do. Help that child see the perspective of what the teacher is trying to accomplish, even though they may have done it inappropriately according to both of them, but say, let's support them. And of course, if it merits a call, then call the school, but really just be that supportive. You know, we have our Quartzsite Learning, our alternative learning program here in the district too. And those parents they're really good at that. They're very engaging and they have that skill because they rely on that. But all parents should to some degree and have that same investment into their child to their level. And so.
Well, I think homeschool people that are, if you want to call it that, homeschooling, they've made that decision with their child, and it's a requirement, I guess, of that is to be more engaged with your kids, and maybe everybody could just be more engaged with their kids.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all. Just to engage with them. Don't make it something on the side or a pain in the neck. It's like, hey, get up, let's go to school. This is a great day, you know. I know that can't be done every day because motivation is a feeling and no one should rely on motivation because feelings come and go. And no one wakes up motivated all the time. But what makes people successful is consistency, discipline, and hard work and focus. Those are the things that make people successful. Motivation is not something you rely on because that comes and go. I don't want to go if I relied on motivation to get me up in the morning, I'd come to work maybe once a week. Okay, not actually I have motivation, but really, it's all about, you know what? This is the routines you have to have, and these things carry you through the learning process when learning gets more difficult as you go and grow through school, and then you get on your own. So these are very, very valuable traits and characteristics that have to happen with our kids constantly, over and over again. That nagging consistently.
So what are a couple of the cool things that you're looking forward to for the 2022-2023 school year?
I think that's a great question. We are excited about just coming back, and I think this is our first year to start back normal. And I know people say we got a new normal. Well, some of that, we like some of the old normal. So because it works so well. And so starting up just regular, kicking it off with, you know, almost no major restrictions or influences. I think that would be good. Getting our kids to start off in sports and activities, getting our teachers going just like a regular school year. So I think we're going to see a lot of strength and growth this year, getting back to some of those things. As I've talked to staff, say, hey, 2 years ago, we used to do this. And I said, why aren't we doing it now? You know, so getting that, transitioning everybody's brain from what the great things that happened 2 years ago back into this year. So that'll be good. And just to have the community back together again in that form. So like I said, the training the teachers are going to be doing, you know, and the new things that we're doing in the district, just stuff like that. So just getting back to that hard work and that excitement. And I think that's kind of, I think for this year would be great.
Are there any
So,
changes? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
oh, I was just going to say, are you seeing a leveling and potentially an increasing in enrollment? Because it seems like a lot of people are moving in to the
Well,
area.
well, I hope you're right, Mike. Obviously our projections are we're going to probably stay the same. We grew a little bit last year, and we would like to see more growth. We do need more students. We are a small school district, and so resources are, we're maximizing them. We have a director of student services who's just found thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in grants, which has helped us. But over and over, but basically what we need is students. So I'm hoping you're right, Mike. I hope we can, some houses or something, people are moving in, which would be great because they'll contribute and in lots of positive ways. I don't anticipate growth in the next couple of years unless I start to see something happening different in the community. At least our projections are not that.
All right. What
one of the are you familiar with the Downtown Strategies Initiative the city's working and the chamber working on?
Yes, I've been a part of that.
Okay, when I read through that draft report, one of the things that jumped out at me was they came back with the average age of that area, which is pretty good size, was 45 and 46. And it used to be in the 50s, or at least the last study I saw. So I saw that as a healthy sign. So that's why I asked that question.
Good. I hope our numbers do grow. I mean, at this point, we don't have anything indicating that we will. But if that's some of those things happen, absolutely. And we have room for growth in our schools. We can definitely take more students. So.
Speaking of kind of growth and stuff, are there any changes to facilities that you want to share with people for this coming year?
Well, as we've talked about, I think before on this show, we talked about the middle school, and the board has moved forward with trying to sell that property. And so right now, I think within the next month or two, may be able to head in that direction. We're waiting on New Health in the area, is a medical facility, and we're waiting for them to take care of some business to see if there's going to be a transition to where they might be able to purchase that property, and then as we move forward, that'll be probably one of the biggest changes that will happen here the next 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
Are you hoping that now in the sale of that property, there were some buildings there that the school district still uses it? Would you be losing all of those buildings in a proposed sale? Just the main building? How do you hope that works out?
Well, the gym obviously is very valuable to us. It's a phenomenal gym, and so whatever transition or sale or lease or whatever arrangement we make, we are still going to request that we have access to that gym. We can't use it during the day, but we definitely need it for our sports. So whatever, during that transition of getting rid of that property and someone purchasing it and renovating it and using it, that gym, the people that we've talked to are very interested in keeping the gym. So that's great for us. And so we will continue to use that for probably for the years to come until we can figure out a plan to build another gym and then go off of that. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. It might be too early for you to be able to answer this, but what are you going to do with the proceeds of the sale of the middle school? Or are you restricted?
The sale of the property won't be that much. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to go, having that building is like $3,500 a month in cost. Mm-hmm. So we've accrued over the last 7-8 years. So that adds up. I think what we're looking at is transitioning into another property, because if we get rid of that whole property, we have our courtside learning, and we have our maintenance shop is on that property. So we'll need to take that funds to then use those funds to either purchase or transition or even trade for another property. So there's going to be basically almost no cash we anticipate no gain. So there's going to be no gain. There's going to be, in fact, we'll probably have to spend a little bit of money, to make that transition to
Right.
move to school. So it's not a win for us. It's not like we're going to walk away and say, oh my gosh, let's build a gym with the money. No, we won't be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a win because you'll save the what, 3,500 or $4,000 a month.
Yeah. I wish it was worth a lot more. It seems like homes and everything else is going up in price, but that building did not. We didn't win on that one. But yeah, those funds that we get will just provide space that we currently need. So there will be a wash. No profit. Yeah.
One of the, I don't remember if it was just I talked to you at a meeting or you'd mentioned it prior, was you've got this funding to get things done and you were having trouble finding contractors to get things done.
Oh yeah.
Because it's still an issue, I assume.
It's crazy because this wonderful community passed a capital levy, as you know, and so the Snyder Field, the announcers booth, parking lots redone, the lighting was finished. We also got a small modernization grant that was awarded to us last year of $3.5 million to put a new HVAC system in the high school and all that stuff. So all that stuff's been awarded, but it's like now because of economic turmoil we're all in. Yeah, you're right. Typically in my profession, I've never had a problem. If I wanted something done in 6 months, it can get done. Mm-hmm. But here it's a year, it's 18 months. So all the stuff that we had planned is now just being stretched and pushed because we just, like that Snyder Field, we couldn't find people to put it in. I mean, we looked everywhere to put that announcers booth in there. Finally, we got it in stages. So we might be able to put the foundation in here in the fall and then have to put it in December, as opposed to typically something like that would have been done this summer, just done, brand new. So we're just having to work in phases.
Do you run a risk with this? Because I know a lot of grants, just from working with nonprofits, a lot of grants have a timetable that you must complete them. Are you getting some leniency on some of these grants, or do you run the risk of not being able of losing the grant money because you can't get the project off the ground?
No, we're fine in that area.
Okay.
The people are working with us totally understand. Not an issue. Actually, I have to announce something great. We applied for a grant through our ESSER funds. So at the Guess Elementary, there's a big playground. And so about 30 days, sometimes more, sometimes less, kids can't go out to recess because it's rainy or the weather's bad. So they have to play games inside and it drives everybody crazy. It's like cabin fever phobia or whatever, and it's just not good. We applied for a grant to get a big industrial roof over the playground area, and we got it.
Oh,
so
cool.
We're in the process of getting that, those big, huge outdoor pavilions.
Mm-hmm.
So now our kids can go out to recess, because we don't want to get into this. It's another radio show, but kids going out and being active and running around is so critical for learning.
Very, very important.
Very critical. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be nice. We'll have that roof. Kids can go out to recess every day, regardless of the weather. And that's going to be wonderful. So
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, as we come toward the end of the show, anything else that you were hoping we'd ask you that we maybe missed?
Nope, there's kinder camp. So on the if you're in the community and you want to send your kids to kindergarten camp, we have one on the 9th. I think it's the, let me see here. That's coming up here on the 9th and 10th, I think. Maybe it's the 9th, 10th, and 11th. Anyways, that week. So if you're a parent and you want to get your kid into kindergarten camp, it's 3 days where they're going to start training and getting kids ready for school. Come to the district office and get an application, things like that. But I think we're in a good position. Nothing else to add. I think we've covered everything. So no, I really appreciate the time to be on the radio, to see you again, even though you're far away, and some of them are really close, like across the block here. But thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it.
I know a lot of people in the community always interested in high school sports. Do you have any sports news before we let you go?
Just the regular. It was back. If we can get back to normal, football starts up in August. We got volleyball. We've got the winter sports happening, So no, we're excited just to get ready for anything pushed out through text messages and our website of games and things starting up. No, we should have some great seasons to see some great kids do some wonderful things. So that's coming up. And I know that Mike, there's a community theater that's going on. And I know
Right.
we talked that we're meeting today about the community art stuff that we're partnering with. So
What's your feeling on what the creative district has done there? I'd like to hear your perspective on it, or your excitement about bringing some additional art into the schools.
Well, it's through Mike. Mike's done a tremendous job. He's the one reaching out to me. So I'm excited to learn more about it. But we've got a grant. And so we're going to put on some art seminars for students in our schools. And so like 2 or 3 times, like week sessions. And it'll be great. It's going to be fun. I know a lot of art, just, like you said, this is a community of art. So I'm glad that we'll be able to be a partner and be a part of that. So.
All right. If that's everything, big round of applause for you. It's Jason Perrins, our superintendent of schools here in Chewelah.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you very much for joining us today. Let's see. Thank you to my host, Mr. Mike Bentz. Always brings a lot to the table on Wednesdays, and our guest. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
And Michelle for just sitting there looking pretty and running all of our controls.
Good job, Michelle.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
All right. All right, tomorrow on the show, it's Three Amigos Thursday. That's Alan Milani, Chuck Ritchie, and myself again. Sorry for that. But join us tomorrow at 7:20 again for your KCHW morning show. Other than that, we want you to keep on listening, and don't forget to support public radio. We need it too. There you go. Just visit kchw.org for more details. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
See you later. Thanks, Jason.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.